big old ship, ain't it, Marina? Oh, hello everyone. Sorry, we've rendezvoused with the Star Cruiser carrying today's button presser, and we're just waiting for him to beam over. Oh, this might be him now.
I am Tamura, commander of the Ishimo, and lord of the Ninth Order.
Oh, hello, Tamura. I am Chris, commander of one rather beat-up Eagle, and lord of, well, the Randomiser, I guess.
I have heard much about you.
Oh, good?
Perhaps.
Yes, well, we'll leave that there, I think. Oh, and this is my co-pilot and cohort, Marina.
Ah, the kindred spirit, able to read my thoughts as few can.
I see. Well, that might explain the rumours you've heard.
He's right, of course.
We'll discuss this later, Marina. So, Tamura, are you happy to press the button today?
Yes, it is my karma, my destiny.
Excellent, well done. So, anything you'd like to see come up today?
That is not my purpose. I agreed to help your cause because I think it is right, but it must be done with honor.
Oh, of course, and I'm sure this printout will bring us all much honor. Oh, and it has.
State your case.
Well, it's the very first episode of Four Feather Falls today.
The arrangements are made. I will return to my ship. Sayonara.
Well, bye then. Oh, what a nice chap. And it's thanks to him that we'll find out how it began. This is an oddity. After last week, we had the very first episode of Fireball XL5, and I commented that that was the very first episode of any of the Super Mario Nation era puppet shows. I think this was actually one of the ones I mentioned when I was going through the list of we haven't had this, we haven't had this, we haven't had that, and now the next week, here's how it began. Very first episode of Four Feather Falls. Very strange, but as happens with Randomiser, it is completely random. And yes, this is the very first episode of Four Feather Falls, so as you can imagine, it's interesting to look back at this because, and I think I've said this a lot recently with Four Feather Falls, we seem to be stuck in some very early episodes. The puppets don't quite look as good as they would later do, and this is full of unfortunate, very early versions of puppets that would later on look much nicer.
Some licorice for me, and some tobacco for Gramps.
We have little Jake in Marjone's store. Both of them look very strange compared to how they later would. They look like a sort of halfway between what they would later be and the sort of Torchy style characters. Little Jake here looks like a troll doll, and
Go straight home, Jake.
Marjone's in particular looks quite distressing. Very pointy face.
Worry about Pedro, ma'am.
But it is, as I understand it, this was shot
The sheriff looks after
almost immediately after the end of shooting the first series of Torchy. This was the very final production, AP Films production anyway, filmed at Islet Park. After they made this, they then moved off to Slough to make the rest of the series. And this is also unusual in the sense that I think I said this last week, and actually I probably shouldn't have done. I said that Planet 46 was the pilot episode of Fireball XL5, and that's not strictly true.
Get out of town, and don't you ever come back.
That's a clip they like to play on. Well, they played quite a bit when Nicholas Parsons passed away. That clip turned up on various news reports and such of his passing. But yes, I kept calling them pilots, and really, if it's a first episode where they know they're going to be making a full series, then it really is just a first episode. This is a true pilot because they went into this
quite a while back,
only making the one episode in the hopes of then being able to make 38 more, depending on any broadcasters wanting to pick it up. And luckily for them, and indeed for us probably, Granada did. But when they made this was a genuine pilot. Just the one episode, no guarantees that there would be anything else. And
bet you'd sure like it.
I'm struggling to think of any other Anderson shows where that was the case. Obviously, things like Space Police, that was a genuine pilot, and the show that followed wasn't quite the same thing. Same as with The Investigator and The Day After Tomorrow. Tomorrow. I was going a bit hero there. They are pilots for shows that never went anywhere. This is a pilot for a show that was actually picked up. And I'm pretty sure the only other example of that in the Anderson world is Dick Spanner. I want to say Dick Spanner was made, the first episode was made ahead of the rest of the run.
Together, boy.
So, a lot of history here.
Had a fire burning.
And I've waffled all over key plot points, but really there isn't much of a plot to this one.
Feeling
A slightly derpy looking, very early version of Tex Tucker
Happy now.
is riding through the desert with
boy?
his horse Rocky and his dog Dusty.
Father, Big Chief Kalamakuya.
They
Oh,
found this little boy, Makuya,
3 moons over mountain.
who is one of those Four for the Falls characters that I never thought actually looked any good, even later on when the puppets looked quite respectable. He has the proportions of like a Lego figure, but also his fingers in this early version of the puppet look like they've been flattened. He's got very flat fingers.
further, McCooyer.
Actually, Tex doesn't look to have very healthy hands either.
Waterfall soon.
Waterfall. We'd better make it by sundown.
Anyway,
Can't go on much longer without water.
yes, they're struggling in the desert, our foursome. And I think I've said this in later episodes. A lot of the Four for the Falls horses that aren't Rocky look quite derpy. Well, Rocky looks quite derpy this week. He's very wide-eyed. I look at this and think, they were putting everything into this in the hopes that someone would like it enough to pick it up for a series. So in that sense, I really can look past all of the crudity of this,
Waterfall. That
as much as I'm commenting on it. Oh,
Where, son? I can't see it.
sun hit water. All dried up.
oh yeah, that's the Four for the Falls with no water.
I reckon.
Yes, there's backstory for this. Grandpa Twink is telling little Jake the story of how the town of Four for the Falls came to be,
Go on at sunup.
which, yes, mostly involves Tex and Makuya, Rocky and Dusty.
You told McCooyer he'd be home in the morning. He knew they couldn't be found.
Oh dear, everyone's thoroughly lost.
And suddenly he woke up and shouted.
Kalamakuya!
Oh! Yes.
Kalamakuya!
And looking at this, on the knowledge that this followed immediately after the production of the first series of Torchy, it is very ambitious and hugely... there's so much atmosphere in this nighttime Four for the Falls stuff that I don't think Torchy ever attempted. I don't remember too many nighttime scenes in Torchy.
He find me.
And I think probably genuinely atmosphere in Torchy was sort of misplaced in what more of accidental horror was what they got with Torchy.
I want no reward, Chief.
But here's Big Chief Kalamakuya
Drink of water and something to eat.
returning his son to him, well, thanks to Tex Tucker.
Water. But first, I bring sun over mountain.
Oh, that's okay. Is that going to affect like the whole world if you do that? Okay. I've got to say, actually, as ropey as a lot of the Four for the Falls episodes look on DVD, this looks particularly bad. Again, where's our Four for the Falls Blu-rays? Oh, but that is a gorgeous shot. I don't know what this must be, some form of stock footage, but I don't know where it comes from. Of the mountain absolutely bone dry, and then we crossfade to water cascading down the falls. Indeed, those are the Four for the Falls of the title, because prior to this episode, or this recap I should say, none of this was here. There was no water. Now there's lush vegetation. It's all thanks to Big Chief Kalamakuya.
Could have given me, Chief.
Oh,
Have more for you, Tex Tucker,
if you let me have a theme song.
from my address. Here is first feather.
Oh, this is a big moment, actually. The giving of the feathers.
I say, old chap, do be careful with that feather.
Yes, and the first time Rocky and Dusty are going to talk.
My
I also love how the animals don't seem particularly fazed by the fact that they can suddenly communicate in human English.
Same.
Naturally, old boy. My ancestors came from England.
And this early version of Rocky has got a very large nose, actually. I'm glad that they went and revamped a lot of these puppets. And it wasn't an immediate thing. They didn't do it as soon as they went into the show. It was a gradual process. I suppose the more main the character, the more urgently they were treated as a case for being upgraded.
Dusty.
Because Dusty also looks quite skinny.
Take care of that feather, Tex. If you lose it, I lose my voice.
Well, we know from past experience, Tex will never, ever lose those feathers. You don't have to worry about that. Oh, there go the magic guns.
But I didn't touch my guns.
Your guns, no.
And we don't get too much of a backstory for Tex. He's just sort of roaming around the place in some very rough-looking clothes. Kalamakuya and Makuya have just beamed out.
They simply vanished.
Ooh.
But the water's still here, and the grass and the trees. This place is sure full of magic.
In four feather
Oh, we're going into the song. Okay.
Four feather falls. There's always
Yes.
magic in.
And this is something that Tex has got a harmonica. Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, the town of Four Feather Falls didn't exist before this great day when Tex got lost in the desert and met Big Chief Kalamakuya. You kind of think, oh, it must have been there for ages, but in fact, no, because there was no reason for it to be there, because there was no water until this great day. So it's not only that Tex is the sheriff of this town, he essentially is responsible for it existing in the first place, which I think is quite an interesting and understated element of the series. Also makes me wonder why the townsfolk often seem to be so glad to get rid of him, or they want to drive him out of town for the slightest mistake, considering that none of them would be there were it not for his heroic efforts. Four Feather Falls
Is heaven on the
suddenly exists. Yes.
Is heaven on the range to me?
The town just exists now.
That's how it all began, Jake. Soon folks came to live here and made Tex their sheriff.
It's as simple as that. And you can see, actually, I think I mentioned this before, but the town here looks very small.
Tex Pedal's behind you. Tex Pedal's behind you.
What are you talking about, Dusty?
Pedal's behind you.
I kind of like this as well, but it makes Tex look a bit dopey. It's like, what? You were speaking English, but I still can't understand you.
Behind you.
Oh.
Get your hands up, Tex Tucker.
Oh, he said he'd be back.
No.
Yes, all of the buildings seem very close together in this early episode. And we're seeing buildings that we would see in later episodes, like the bank, like the saloon, that would have other characters associated with them. But in this episode, really, we just have like this central core of 8, all of which will recur throughout the series. But it was also nice that they developed the show after this and put in characters like Slim Jim and the bank manager guy whose name I've forgotten, and so on. So, that's Pedro having lost the first of his many hats.
Not, son. Guess not.
Oh, that's it. Oh, okay. Right, so, yeah, Tex shot Pedro's hat off, and it landed on little Jake. And that is it. Directed by Jerry Anderson. Good stuff. Yeah, very obviously very early days for Four Feather Falls, because this is the first episode of Four Feather Falls. But it's nice watching this knowing that, for all they knew, the people making this was going to be a one-off. So they put everything they could into it. And, compared to the later episodes, it's not especially standout. But comparing it to Torchy, it's a huge step up. So this is something of a really crucial stepping stone from one world to another in terms of the Anderson story. I suppose it's one of those little moments in history where if they hadn't done this and it hadn't been picked up by Granada, who knows what may or may not have happened in later years. So, on the whole, a solid first episode of Four Feather Falls. Not great, not perfect, but nothing terrible either. So, yeah, well done, guys.